What's up, guys? This is Chris from 4x4 Tech Talk, and I just want to revisit something that I talked about in the last video, and I think I may have got it wrong. An all-new axle for the new Ram TRX, and that's right, a unit bearing, something we've never seen in the truck industry ever. So this one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Look, just to give you a little background in history, this is a semi-float axle. This is what your traditional Ram, Raptor, everything looks like, where it's actually got a semi-float, flange on the end that bolts in. Pretty standard stuff in a lot of half-ton pickup trucks. Then from a full float, your full float, just to give you a quick recap, is a spindle that bolts on to the end of the axle housing. And then from there, you have a hub that goes on the spindle and your axle bolts in from the outer side. That's traditionally a full float. To give it a little perspective of what it looks like, and sorry for the crappy graphic, but a semi-float axle there actually has, you can see where the bearing sits inside the housing. It has a retaining flange on it, where a full float, the bearings and everything sits on the outer. So it actually sits outboard of things. It's a little bit different. And you can see where the bearings are spaced out on a full float because it just gives you more surface area. Honestly, that's why a 25 and a 3500 can carry more load capacity. So with that, when I saw this, it made me question something, and I reached out to my guy at FCA. I said, hey, what's going on with that hole in the axle? And it looks like I can see the caliper mount, but something funky. And he goes, that may be a unit bearing rear end. That's never been done in the truck world. To give you an idea what a unit bearing is, this is a Spider Track, a very well-known company in the King of the Hammers, desert racing world. They manufacture a line of full race axles, and a unit bearing actually is an assembled housing, if you will, or assembly that actually houses the bearing inside of it and allows the axle to pass through it. That then bolts to the outer axle, or the outer axle flange. So there's not any there's not a real need for additional oiling and additional surfaces. It's all kind of contained inside. So again, this would be a unit, a unit bearing style rear end, right? So you can see the benefit of that is your axle actually slides all the way through the middle, and then you have a cap that bolts on the end of it that actually keeps it set in there. So your axle's not coming out. So for example, here's a full race housing, looks like for something King of the Hammers related. And you can see at the end here where that unit bearing bolts in the end of the flange. So I don't know if this is true or not, but if it is, it's a big deal in the OEM world because that takes and puts a lot of the stress out on the bearing, not on the housing. If you broke an axle shaft, it'd be kind of a win-win. Before, in all the pictures, I assumed it was just your traditional semi-float axle. But hey, if this is the case, that's pretty big news, honestly. I mean, that'll be the first in its industry to run a unit bearing style rear end outside of the race application world, outside of a King of the Hammers buggy or something else. So hey, just something I stumbled across and looking at some pictures and talking to a friend. But and again, a friend of mine sent me a text and said something looks weird with that. So oh man, I hope that's the case. Another reason why that TRX is going to kick ass on a Raptor. It's going to be a hard one to follow. So, like I say, drop me a line in the comments below if you agree or disagree, if you see the same thing or you hear differently. I haven't seen any pictures. This axle is being marketed as a Dana 60. What I kind of find out from my Dana friends is that it's a Adventech axle based on Dana 60, yes, but it will use the Adventech gear cut technology. So it will be a little different than your traditional Dana 60. Still, pretty cool to see that in the rear. And that Adventech axle in the Jeep world, they claim is 30% stronger on the gear cut. There's a lot of feature and benefits, but it does take weight out of that rear axle. So it's not just your traditional rear slug, in there that weighs 9 million pounds. It's actually got a little technology behind it. So I'm pretty excited to see this truck in person, as you can't tell. So that's all I got. That's my rant, and I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you next time.